There was a time, not so long ago, when learned men thought that was flat.
Close your eyes for a moment and picture around the world in 80 days. What is the first image that pops into your head? If you are like millions of people across generations, you are picturing a giant hot air balloon drifting gracefully over the French Alps. It is the defining symbol of the story. It is on the book covers, it is in the cartoons, and it is the centerpiece of the movie poster. But here's the problem. It is a lie. Jules Verne never wrote that scene. In the original 1873 novel, Phileas Fogg never sets foot in a balloon. That image was invented entirely for the 1956 film. And that single inflated lie tells you everything you need to know about the most chaotic, expensive, and megalomaniacal production of the 1950s. Welcome back to Golden Flicker. Today, we are not just analyzing a movie, we are dissecting a magic trick. We are going to look at how one mad producer named Mike Todd, who had never made a film in his life, gambled his entire fortune to turn a polite Victorian novel into the first modern blockbuster. We are going to uncover how a Mexican superstar hijacked the movie, why Frank Sinatra is standing in the background of a saloon, and how this film convinced the world that a lie was better than the truth. But before we embark on this global race, I have to ask, do you remember the first time you saw a movie that felt truly huge? Not just a story, but an event that felt like it was swallowing you whole? Let me know in the comments, because that feeling is exactly what Mike Todd was trying to bottle in 1956. The War Against Television. To understand why this movie exists, you have to understand the terror of Hollywood in the mid-1950s. The industry was facing a lethal enemy, television. For the first time, middle-class families in America and Europe could stay home, heat up a TV dinner, and be entertained for free. Movie theaters were emptying out. The studios were panicking. They needed something that a small black and white box in a living room could not replicate. They needed scale. They needed spectacle. They needed Mike Todd. Mike Todd was not a filmmaker. He was a Broadway impresario, a carnival barker in an expensive suit, and a man who lived his life on the edge of bankruptcy. He didn't want to make a movie. He wanted to host the world's most expensive party. He looked at Jules Verne's novel about a man obsessed with schedules and railways, and he saw a vehicle for his new technology. Todd-AO. Todd-AO was a proprietary 70mm widescreen format projected on a massive, deeply curved screen. The idea was to wrap the image around the audience, creating a sense of peripheral vision, an early ancestor of IMAX. Mike Todd didn't just want you to watch Phileas Fogg travel, he wanted you to feel the wind in your face. The perfect gentleman. To anchor this madness, he needed the perfect Phileas Fogg. He spent months chasing Cary Grant, but Grant was too expensive and too hesitant. So the role fell to David Niven, and in hindsight, it could not have been anyone else. David Niven embodied the specific nostalgia the film was selling. In 1956, the British Empire was rapidly disintegrating. The Suez Crisis was happening the same year the film was released. The world was becoming messy, fast, and American. David Niven, with his crisp diction and unshakable punctuality, represented a fantasy of British order, a gentleman who could tame the chaotic world just by looking at his watch. So the journey begins in London. The film opens not with action, but with a prologue hosted by legendary newsman Edward R. Murrow. It's a strange, dry start, almost like a university lecture. But as soon as Fogg accepts the wager to circumnavigate the globe, Mike Todd throws the audience into the deep end. A logistical nightmare. The production of this film was insane. Today, blockbusters are born in server rooms, stitched together with pixels. Around the World in 80 Days was dragged into existence by sheer force of will on the ground. Filming didn't just happen on a comfortable backlot. The production physically moved like a conquering army across 13 different countries, from the crowded streets of Hong Kong to the wild plains of Colorado. Mike Todd employed 33 assistant directors just to manage the chaos. They coordinated 69,000 extras. That is the population of a small city. The wardrobe department had to design and manage 74,000 costumes, ranging from heavy Victorian bustles to Japanese kimonos and authentic Spanish matador outfits. And let's not forget the animals. The production wrangled ostriches, elephants, buffalo, and fighting bulls. They shot nearly 680,000 feet of film, burning through money at a rate that terrified the studio. Mike Todd wasn't just making a movie. He was managing a logistical operation larger and more complex than some actual military invasions. The Cantinflas Factor. Our first major stop is Spain, and this is where the movie makes its most brilliant, calculated pivot. In the book, Fogg's servant, Passepartout, is a French valet, but Mike Todd wanted the global market. He wanted to sell tickets in places Hollywood usually ignored. So he cast Cantinflas. If you are watching this in the US or the UK, you might know Cantinflas as the funny sidekick. But in Mexico and the rest of Latin America, Cantinflas was a god. He was the Charlie Chaplin of Mexico, the highest paid comedian in the world. Mike Todd knew exactly what he was doing. He expanded the role of Passepartout, turning him into a co-lead. In the Spanish-speaking world, David Niven was billed second. It was a Cantinflas movie. The invention of the cameo. The sequence in Spain is essentially a showcase for Cantinflas's physical comedy, ending in a massive bullfight. And notice what happens here. The plot stops dead. We are no longer racing around the world, we are watching a variety show. This is where Mike Todd invented the modern cameo. Look closely at the crowd in the bullfight scene. Look at the people in the streets. Mike Todd called in every favor he had. He pestered famous friends to show up for a day or even an hour. That is Gilbert Roland. That is Cesar Romero. Later, on a train, you see Buster Keaton playing a conductor. In a saloon, Marlene Dietrich is the hostess, and Frank Sinatra is just playing the piano, barely saying a word. This was a psychological weapon. It turned the movie into a game. Audiences had to keep their eyes glued to the massive curved screen because if they blinked, they might miss Peter Lorre or Red Skelton. It forced engagement. It was the 1956 equivalent of a Marvel movie Easter egg hunt. The problem with Princess Aouda. From Europe, the production moves east, and this is where we hit the turbulence of the era. The India sequence introduces us to the film's romantic lead, Princess Aouda. Mike Todd tested dozens of actresses for this role, including actual Asian actresses. But the studio system of the 1950s had a very specific and very limited imagination. The role went to Shirley MacLaine. Shirley MacLaine was a white American actress in her early 20s with a bright red pixie cut. They put her in a dark wig, darkened her skin, and asked her to play an Indian princess rescued from a funeral pyre. Even at the time, MacLaine felt it was wrong. She turned the role down twice. She later said she felt ridiculous and miscast. Watching it today, it is a jarring reminder of the Hollywood colonial gaze. To Mike Todd and the 1950s audience, the world was a series of postcards, stereotypes to be consumed. India was exotic, Spain was passionate, and the American West was rough. The film doesn't explore these cultures, it uses them as wallpaper for David Niven's suits.
Before we enter the final act of our journey, I have a mission for you. If you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video. It helps the algorithm find other cinema lovers like us. And let us know what classic film should we decode next.
Now back to the balloon, right in time for the golden flicker moment. The balloon is a lie. We're back on the clock. We've crossed the ocean and arrived in the United States. And now we must address the elephant, or rather the balloon, in the room. We're reaching the moment that defines the entire legacy of this film. It is the golden flicker moment. Why did Mike Todd force a hot air balloon into a story that didn't have one? The answer is purely technical. He had this magnificent Todd-AO camera system. It was designed to show sweeping vistas, depth, and height. Trains are flat. Steamships are flat. He needed something vertical. He needed to show off the curve of the screen. So he invented the balloon sequence over France. It is visually stunning. The camera hangs high above the countryside, drifting silently. For audiences in 1956 who had never flown in a plane, this was a spiritual experience. It was virtual reality. And it worked too well. The image of Niven and Cantinflas in that basket was so powerful, so cinematic, that it became the logo of the franchise. It appeared on lunchboxes, board games, and every poster. When people bought the book after seeing the movie, they were confused. Where is the balloon? They asked. The movie had successfully overwritten the source material. Do you agree that this is the golden flicker moment? The instant where the adaptation swallowed the original? It proves that in the 20th century, the visual image became more powerful than the written word. The Oscar and the tragedy. The film races toward its conclusion back in London, but the real finale happened at the Academy Awards. Around the World in 80 Days was a massive financial hit. It was the avatar of its day. But Mike Todd wanted respect. He campaigned aggressively for the Oscars. And in one of the most debated upsets in Hollywood history, this light, frothy travelogue won Best Picture, beating out heavyweights like Giant and The Ten Commandments. It was the peak of Mike Todd's life, and it was also the end. Less than 18 months after the film's release, Mike Todd's private plane, the Lucky Liz, crashed in New Mexico. He died instantly. He left behind a grieving widow, Elizabeth Taylor, and this one singular massive movie. He never produced another film. He came to Hollywood, broke every rule, built the biggest toy anyone had ever seen, won the biggest prize, and then vanished. So, what is the legacy of Around the World in 80 Days? It is easy to dismiss it today. It is long, it is slow by modern standards, and its cultural politics are outdated. But if you look closer, you see the blueprint for everything we watch now. It created the idea of the event film. It proved that audiences crave spectacle. It showed that people want to be transported. Mike Todd turned a Victorian novel about a timetable into a celebration of a shrinking world. He promised us that we could go everywhere, see everyone, and be back in time for dinner. And even if he had to lie about the balloon to get us there, you have to admit, the view was spectacular. If you discovered something new today, illuminate our day by clicking like and subscribe to Golden Flicker so you never miss a story from the annals of cinema history. Which film should we explore next? Let us know in the comments.